Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, fill in the blank. This is Kellen Ann, and I'm your host of Ignite Your Wow, the show that's all about wow. And you guys may notice I'm talking a little silly today. Had to have a crown put on, so just bear with me. I'm kind of slurry as well. Thank you for joining today, and please let me know where you're from in the comments. And if you're watching this on the replay, let me know by hitting replay. And then if you like what you heard, please be sure to subscribe and share on YouTube or Facebook. So today we have two sponsors. We have Blue Sky Video Productions. Bruce Himmelblau is my producer and the proprietor of Blue Sky Video Productions. He is a live stream producer and a YouTube strategist, and I couldn't do this show without him. So let's bring him on and see what kind of tip he has for us today.
Hi.
Hey.
So it looks like we're having some issues getting out live to Facebook. We're only live to the YouTube.
Oh.
So
Facebook has been wonky lately because some of us weren't able to post things either the last couple of days.
Maybe they're shutting it down.
Yeah.
Go out of business.
Maybe I'm too controversial.
There you go. So tip of the day is actually going to be a video tip of the day. I have a guest. His name is Eric Van Degen. He is a world-class speaker. So here is a tip he gave me when he was on my show.
Relentless rehearsal. Again, 6 months for a half-hour product launch. That is why the greats make it look so easy. You would never expect a surgeon to come in and just wing it, when he's operating on your kidneys or your brain, right? Nor would you expect your attorney to just wing it. Same is true in our professions, right? No matter what it is that you do, when you wing it, people can tell.
That's the tip.
Isn't that the truth? Everybody can tell I wing it every week.
Yep. So, okay. And who's our other sponsor?
My favorite sponsor, and I bet yours, Cards That Wow. Today, I just did this design for a person that I'm hoping will be on our show in July, and that's going to be a top secret surprise, and I'll let you know as soon as I know. I make cards that wow, and I do corporate branded gifts that make your clients wow. So if you would like more information, check out my website or send me an email. So today is a fun day. The show is about everything wow, and this guy wowed me the first time I met him on Clubhouse. And let me give you a little bit. I'm going to read off of his back cover thing. So Jack was born in Iowa, and he's a veteran of the U.S. Army. Thank you very much for that. He retired from the Los Angeles Police Department in 2003, where he had assignments in gangs, homicide, and served for over 15 years in major narcotics. During this time, he also worked with federal agencies operating on counterterrorism and cartel-related activities on the West Coast. So he is here today. Please help me welcome Jack Struble. Were you expecting such great music?
I love great music. It's the best way to start a show is something where you can snap your fingers and tap your toes.
Think like this.
Yeah.
I figured you would enjoy that.
Well, I'm all thing about Zoom and live streaming. That only happened since COVID.
Right.
I never. People would say, let's Zoom. And I'd say, well, that means I'll see you there at 1 o'clock.
Or
so
speeding.
That was yes, or speeding. Exactly.
Yeah. This is my group that I belong to, my Megamind group. We're a mastermind group that got together right at the beginning of COVID. And I was afraid to go on a Zoom call at the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And so now I'm like, I'm 2 live stream shows, and I love it. I mean, I'm like, I have to do it because I get to talk to so many interesting people.
Well, it's interesting. You get on there. I've had some calls with clients, and then all of a sudden people start popping in on the Zoom that they don't tell you about. and then I'll just sit there, look straight ahead like this. And they're going, Jack. They go, maybe he can't hear us. Well, maybe his sound's off. And I'm thinking to myself, what are all these people doing here? And then I just I go, what's going on? who are these people? And they're
So
like,
you-
oh, I need to introduce myself.
Oh my God. So after the show, you need to talk to Bruce. He figured out a way to, he takes a video of himself just kind of looking around like this, and then he loops it, and then he plays it so the people think he's still there.
Exactly.
So if you need that, talk to him after the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I met you on Clubhouse, and
Yes.
I love all the the true crime and cold case files and things like that, and that's how I met you.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your career? Let's give people like a
Sure.
little background of where you're coming from.
Well, it's funny what you on my bio, I know you got some of that off my book. And the funny thing was I sent my publisher my bio, and it said I left in 2003 after the death of a friend of mine on the job, and I came back. And so I said, well, basically put down when I retired, actual retirement. So he goes, sure. And I'm thinking, and I had my project manager. He goes, well, talk to so-and-so. So I talked to her. She goes, yeah. I said, you're kind of leaving some things out. So then he sends me a box of books, and I was like, oh, for Pete's sakes. I said, okay, well, that's fine. But I spent I spent just under 26 years at LAPD, and I came up through the ranks like most people do. I was in patrol, but I very quickly realized that I wanted to be a detective. And I kind of felt that way when I was in the Army and I was working investigations. So I was eligible to take the test. I became a detective, and that's where I stayed up until the day I retired. And that was in late 2006, my final retirement.
Oh wow.
And so I had a great time. When I came back, those assignments that you spoke of, I worked there, but my final assignment was I was a supervisor in a very specialized unit. And what we did was we investigated cases, very large scale cases, and our boundaries weren't the city limits. I mean, we went wherever our case took us, wherever the suspects were, and it could be as far east as New York, or to the UK, or to Germany, or wherever
Bangladesh.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? And so I stayed there for a few years. Then I retired. I went into my own, I had already had my business started. And so I said, it's time to leave. So I left, and then I went into my business, and I've been doing that ever since, which I just absolutely love, just like you love your job.
Mm-hmm. So how do you get your clients for your business? I mean, is there like a niche that you have, or does anybody, you just come on, talk to me. I'll see what I can do.
Well, I started in the late 80s, and it was like all word of mouth. I've never advertised ever. And I've worked with everybody from, Academy Award winning actresses to princes to, just everyday normal people. And I've never advertised. It's all been word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And it's, I tried advertising for like a New York Second, which never worked out. Mm-hmm. I got, the weird calls, and then I said, take me out of the phone book. I don't want to be there. So, it's just been, I just get referred by all kinds of people. And then I get strange phone calls all the time. It says, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm a friend of so-and-so's. And I go, okay. And then it's like, he said you could help me. And I guess they think I'm comfortable enough just getting a cold call, just, helping whoever, calls me, which, it's an interesting life, because it's taken myself and my company, across 5 continents and 40 countries. And it's been a they don't have those coupons at Disney anymore, but they used to call it the e-ticket, where the one main ticket, you can go on any ride. It's kind of been an e-ticket, but my whole career, so to speak. So
what is the strangest case that you had to take care of?
Strangest case I ever had to take care of. Well, it's kind
Oh, we lost your voice. Oh, there you are. Okay.
yeah,
You're good.
there we are. It's kind of the funniest and the saddest was I got hired by somebody, and they gave me all these all these details about a missing relative, someone that was close to him. And so I asked him, did you go to the police? Yeah, I went to the police. Who did you go to? I made a call. I actually knew the detective. He was one of the detectives that was working on the case, and his comment was, well, it's just really kind of strange. This whole case is strange. We get this information and I said, did it not add up? Or he goes, well, it just dropped off very quickly and it's still open. I said, okay, fine. This detective I knew, he said, well, did he reach out to you? And I said, yes. As I started getting into it, what I realized was, I'll cut to the chase. I get to the end of it and I realized that the guy that hired me is actually the guy that kidnapped the woman that was keeping her hidden. And, I mean, just things, as they say, it's like the smell test, and it just didn't smell right. So I dug a little more and I dug a little more. And then I kind of switched up things and I started following this guy, and he kept going to this place in LA. Wasn't the best neighborhood, and it just didn't seem right for this guy here that hired us. And so what we did was we were able to pin down the apartment he went to, and then we went in there after he left, and we ended up figuring out that someone was being inside, and the person that was inside was watching somebody. We could see feet of somebody laying on a bed in a room, because what we did was we took a cable and kind of put it under the door and moved it around and saw these pair of feet to the right. We're like, that's weird. And then we see a guy walk in there, bring some food, and I'm thinking, okay, this is probably where the victim is. So I contacted the same detective, told him everything that we found out, and based on the information I gave him, they wrote a search warrant, served the search warrant, and that's where they found the missing woman.
Wow.
And yeah, and she he took her there, and what he told her was, I mean, he's pretty wealthy himself, but what he told her was that he was going to reach out to her family and make arrangements to get her back. And why we felt, based on those statements, that it was going to be something a lot more sinister. And it was, I mean, everything was kind of timely. She'd been missing about a month.
Wow.
And we couldn't figure out why he didn't, get rid of her someplace. He kept her. But I mean, that's probably the weirdest one. I mean, I get a lot of weird things.
I was just thinking, if I were ever kidnapped and there was a ransom, they'd say keep her.
Well, you and me both. I mean, I have so many people that admire my skills, so to speak. They probably say, just leave the guy out in the desert. But I'm like the ever-ready bunny. I'm like the cockroach that you survive Hiroshima. I'm gonna come back. And then I'm gonna come knocking on their door. Hello, it's me. And then watch him, have a heart attack and collapse.
Okay, so everybody thinks of detectives like there's Monk, there's Secret Squirrel. I mean, you've got the gamut. So do you have a bunch of cool like gadgets and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
Can you talk about them? Like, are they top secret stuff?
No, they're not top. I mean, we've got recording devices that we use, not illegally. We've got a lot of really high speed cameras with lenses and video recorders. A lot of the stuff that we do is a lot of people think because, you watch a TV show for an hour and you get about 42 or 43 minutes, and it's just, that's how fast the investigation goes. And, it'd be great if you can solve them all in 43 minutes, but that's not what always happens. And, and a lot of the things that we get in my firm is, we work with corporations and people in entertainment. It could be everything from like a major fraud to a stalking investigation. I think the thing that's different between us and other investigative firms is that, including myself, everybody that works for me, all have law enforcement backgrounds. They're all, I only hire people that work detectives for more than, a short period of time. A lot of agencies, you rotate into detectives and you work there for 3 or 5 years and you're back in patrol. And the people that work for me, they're what we call like career detectives. That's all they did, and I look for people with a lot of like a diverse backgrounds, and different skills. And, we're different because we'll investigate things that where the police will say there's just not enough for us to move forward. So then they'll retain us. We'll use surveillance. We use a lot of surveillance to document their activities and kind of, put a case together. And then what we do is when we have something based on our experience, we'll take it back to the police and we'll say, here's what we have. And then, they'll proceed and take and adopt it from us.
So is it kind of a deal where the police, their hands are tied at some certain point?
Yes.
But you can kind of go a little bit, push it a little bit further.
Yes.
And so they actually probably appreciate your help, and they're not feeling like that Jack, and he's making us look bad. But
yeah, you got to be careful of that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
that was my point.
Yeah, you have to be careful about that. I mean, you don't want to, our whole thing is we just want to solve, we want to resolve what our client puts in front of us, and do that. And we don't care how it gets done. We'll take it, and if we feel we have something, we'll take it to the police and we'll let them do what they got to do.
Right.
And hold their press conference. We don't care about that. We just care about getting the thing resolved and moving forward.
You don't want to ruin their chance of getting a good arrest either, right? So
no.
You do your part to get them what they need so that they can follow protocol, and that's really cool. I like that.
Well, and what happens a lot of times is, what people don't understand is when you're in the private sector, there's things you can do that maybe the police can't do. And, as long as you don't collaborate with the police on what you're doing, the information you get is, there's no reason they can't use it. But if they say, hey, can you do this for us? Now you become an agent of the police, which we never want to be.
Right.
We want to be able just to conduct our investigation, get what we can get, and then present it to them. And it's never an issue. And we'll testify, and of course the defense attorneys will say, well, you've done this, they'll ask your voir dire, your background. And I always tell them, I say, well, counselor, we're not police officers. We're private citizens, investigators doing this. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, well, because they try to present it a certain way.
Right.
To
So
the jury.
They can't be admissible. And
Yes. And the judge just tells them basically to move on, go to the next question.
That's so cool. I had another question and now I forgot it. Let's talk about your novel. We got a little bit of time. Sure. What was the impetus of that? What made you want to write that?
Well, a couple things. I'd had people for years telling me to write a book, and the way they presented it to me, it was kind of like I thought they wanted me to like write a tell-all because of the people that we work with. And I told them, I said, I can't do that. And they said, no, like write about some case or cases you have. And I thought, that's interesting, because what I had done is several years ago, I took up, I've always had a love for writing and storytelling. And so I started writing scripts, TV and feature film. And I have a writing partner who is, we used to work together, and he's a technical advisor in the industry. His name's Chick Daniel. So, we have the same personality. We get along very well. And I gave him a copy of the manuscript that was the final manuscript that was edited. And he read it and he said, well, what do you want to do with this? I said, well, I don't know, just maybe sell some books, And he said, how about television? I said, if somebody calls, sure, we'll do it. And, I knew it wasn't that easy, but I wasn't really that interested. So I wrote a script, like what they call a pilot script. And then I took that and used it as the outline. And that's how I came up with my book.
Oh,
and
cool.
I really kind of filled in the blanks as I went along, which is really not your most conventional way of writing a book. I've talked to, I talked to Michael Conley, and I talked to some other writers, and they're like, you must have the story up in your head, Jack. And I said, yeah, I got it up there, or it starts unfolding. And that's kind of what happened. And then, that's how I ended up writing the book.
Oh, that's fun. How long did it take you?
2.5 months.
Wow. That's
2.5. Yeah, it was pretty quick.
And was the publishing journey difficult, or did you kind of already have somebody that was interested? Or?
Yes. I had someone that was interested. Mascot Books, they're back in DC. They sign, and they also do what do you call it? Self-publishing. So they do both. And the publisher, I met him at a dinner party on the East Coast, and he started asking me a bunch of questions, and he said, I'll publish your book for you.
Nice.
And I said, you'll publish my book? And he goes, yeah. So, I was like, okay, there's no cost out of my pocket, and they're going to pay for all the costs. They're going to pay for all the publishing costs. And I thought, why not? So and then we worked a deal out, and I wrote it, and then what happened was, after I wrote that, I was going to write another one in the Major Violators series, and then business grew like crazy. I just kept getting more and more distracted, and then Chick and I, we started taking our project out, and between what I was doing in my business and what he does, because he's a technical advisor, and in between doing all that stuff, we're trying to fit in meetings to pitch our project. And then there was a long lull in there, and COVID came, and it was a perfect time. I mean, I still stayed busy, but it was a perfect time because a good friend of ours, who's an Academy Award winning actor, Chick came up with an idea, and I said to him, he'll come up with an idea and he'll think about it. And I'm more of like, let's write it down. Let's get the premise. Let's write it down. He knows me, it's like, if he says, let's come up with a couple main characters, and like about 4 days later, I'll be emailing him things. And he's like, oh my God. So finally I convinced him. We did a synopsis. We didn't want to treat our friend, be disrespectful. I mean, he would have listened to us because we were friends with him, but we were approaching this as a project that, if we were two writers, that we were going to ask for him to be part of. And we pitched it, and then he said, fantastic. And so then we started working on that, which kept me away from, finishing the second book. And it took us like 13 months. We finished the script, and he gave us all his notes, and we went in and edited it. And so now we're between his, he just finished a movie, and that's coming out next month on HBO Max. And, and then we're setting up meetings to try to sell our project. So then I finished the book. So that's kind of where I've been. That's kind of where my 5 years, that's where my time, just a little bit, that's where all my time, where it came into where I'm at today.
So from the Invest PI point of view,
Yes.
What COVID make you busier, or, I mean,
yes. Yes. And, I've signed NDAs, but I'll tell you this much. Yes, very much so. I don't, I know this. I mean, you go, do I say it or don't I say it? Do I say thank you, COVID, or do I say just thanks for the opportunity? And I don't know. I don't think it was so much COVID as it was, again, referral from a client that turned out to be something that I would have never imagined. And my business just grew like crazy. And I'm getting on a plane, flying to different parts of the United States and overseas to do recruiting tours, so to speak. And I mean, it's great because I'm like myself and the flight attendants and the pilot and co-pilot and maybe like 20 people on the plane. And,
no, I flew like in, was it October of last year? And there was like 10 people on the plane. I'm like, oh, this is...
You're like, how do they survive? It was crazy. And so I was spending a lot of time recruiting people because I needed a lot of people. And it just kind of, and then what it did was, knock on wood, it just gave me an opportunity to devote that much more time to writing and doing those kind of things.
Yeah, I know COVID it was a very sad time for a lot of people, but I'll
absolutely.
tell you, a lot of businesses did really well too. And, I started my business in the middle of the pandemic, and
oh, good for you.
Yeah. And I have nothing but good news. So,
well, that's fantastic.
So, okay. I know I'm jumping around, but I remembered the question I was going to ask you. Can you collect DNA differently than the police?
If we ever come across any evidence as a result of, let's say what happens a lot of times is we get calls to do parallel investigations because the client isn't happy with the pace that the police are going. So now what happens is you're in the middle of a criminal investigation. And so what I always do is I always go to that detective and say, hey, here's what's going on. It's no offense. I understand what's happening. They're not only investigating my client's case, they're also investigating, depending on where they're at.
100 others.
100 others. So, and I always tell them, I say, listen, here's what's going to go on. We're not going to step all over your case.
Right.
Number one. And number two, if we do find any evidence, or if we come across anything, we find some witnesses, I said, of course, we're going to share that with you. Beyond a doubt. We're not going to hog it to ourselves. We're going to share it with you. And if some evidence comes up during the course of that, then what we'll do is we'll reach out to those detectives and we'll, if we get in touch with them, we'll tell them what we found. They'll generally send somebody, and they'll come out themselves and they'll collect it, and we won't touch it. And we'll isolate it, and we'll find out from the person that we interviewed. Obviously they probably touched it where they found it, so that we can share that with the detectives in case they ask this person later on, where'd you find it? And they lied to them, because that happens because now the police are involved. Right. And they think for some reason that giving it to us is going to make it solved, and they don't understand we don't have those abilities.
Right. Okay.
So, but we just, every investigation we do Kellen, is that we just approach it as though we were investigating a case on the police department, and be methodical. A lot of people in my industry don't do that because a lot of them haven't been in law enforcement, and some that were in law enforcement, they just don't care anymore, and they just do what they got to do. But the whole thing is, we just want to, our whole goal, if we get involved in a criminal case, which a lot of our things that we investigate are kind of, they're being looked at by the police as criminal. And even if they aren't criminal, we just want to make sure that continuity of evidence and, the chain of custody, those are all obviously police terms, but it's things that we believe in, and we make sure that we use those, follow those practices.
Cool. Okay. Do you have any stupid criminal stories? Like,
stupid
you can't
criminal.
believe this guy was so stupid.
Well, yes. We were going to lunch, and it's after I retired the first time and came back, and we were coming out of the office, and we're going to go to lunch, and we all had our own cars. So one of the guys in the unit I was in, he said, well, let's go to, I don't know where you're based out of, but
I'm in San Francisco.
Okay. So in Los Angeles, they have a place by Chinatown, or right across the street from Alvera Street, called Felipe's. So we go to Felipe's and we park in the back. He's driving, I'm the passenger. I go in, I said, okay, I'm going to go in to get in line because everybody from all over the place comes there at lunchtime. And they have these like, they're kind of like sub sandwiches, and they have roast beef and stuff and turkey. And so I get in line, and he comes in shortly after me, right? And we're there like an hour. We come out, we're looking, where's your car? So we know where he parked it. I know where I got out of it. I walk over, and first thing I'm looking for is evidence like they broke in, broke the window and got in and hotwired it, right? And I said, okay, this is a little strange. So we had to call communications, tell them that we had police stolen vehicle. He had a lot of equipment in the trunk of his car, and he was really concerned. Well, he was really concerned that they would get that equipment and that it could hurt somebody. And so I didn't know this, but I thought, well, this is pretty brilliant. But what he did was the lock on the trunk of his car, he had it replaced with a different lock and had the key for it, which
brilliant.
I'm thinking, who would have thunk that, right? Well, guess what everybody in our crew did after that? Same thing. So he acts like he's not concerned, and then they find the car, and the highway patrol stops it, and it's some young kid like 21 years old that stole our car. And you could obviously tell there's like radios that are concealed, excuse me, in the glove box, and because it's a plain vehicle. and he knew, and we had at the top, like the light thing you could pull down. We had sirens in the dash, but on the face value, look at it, it's like a regular police car. I mean, like a regular car. And so he stole it. And when he's driving, he just pulled over. He tells them, he said, oh, my friends let me use the car. I was just going down to Venice Beach. And he hotwired our car. And I said, okay, now that's a problem too, because then once we get it, he didn't damage it. They tow it. We get the hot wiring fixed, and we go in and talk to him, right? And it was like, okay, it was very easy. So it was like all of a sudden what happened to us became the poster child for how do you secure your vehicles. Number one, you don't leave it unlocked, right? And number two, and then everybody started changing the locks on their trunks, and I thought, well, how brilliant was that? But it was
Oh,
just,
really?
I felt so, I really kind of felt sorry for him. And I asked him, I said, well, you're going to Venice Beach? He goes, yes, sir. I said, so you obviously know how to steal a car. And he goes, yes, sir. And I said, have you not been to the beach? He goes, no, sir. He goes, I never been to the beach. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking we should call the DA and let him go for the simple reason he never been to the beach before.
That's crazy. Oh my God. Okay, now I've been dying to ask this question. I've never asked it in my life, but I'm picking you to ask this question.
Oh, okay, sure.
Best donut in LA?
Randy's.
What makes them best?
They're so fluffy. And I'm just saying, I heard anyway. I may have had one or so, but it's, Randy's the one with the big donut attached to the top of the thing, but there's like it's a secret recipe, and they're just fluffy and really light, so you feel like there can't be that many calories in there, right? That's what the first impression is until you have like 3 or 4 of them. But I mean, yeah, that was kind of like if we were going to get donuts, but it was way, way far away from our office, but it didn't make a difference. We drive over there. There you go.
Now, is that them or is that just donuts?
No, you know what? It sure the heck looks like them, but you never know.
Yeah. Oh boy, I want donuts now.
Well, the person that owned that, was family owned.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and I understand. I haven't been there in years, but I mean, unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have donuts, why not? And the good thing about it, there it is. There it is. And the good thing about it,
if I go down when I go to LA, because I have to go down in a month or so, will you buy me a Randy's donut?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just call me or email me. We'll go to Randy's.
Okay, we didn't talk about, we did talk a little bit about your second book. So is it finished?
It's finished.
It is finished, and it's in review or technical right now?
Well, we've got our project about the book in front of somebody, so we're kind of waiting to see what happens, and if they pick it up, then what I'm going to do is we're going to publish it, just having it kind of timely.
Cool. Well, let me know because I can have you back on the show.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Okay, last question I ask everybody. Sure. What makes you wow?
What makes me wow? My family.
Yay, that's a good answer.
Yeah, my family.
Best.
By far. My family.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here and putting up with my mouth that doesn't work.
That's okay.
Doing okay, I think.
I think it looks pretty good. It kind of gives you that tough gal kind of appearance, right?
Yeah, that's it. So yes, thank you for being here. And if you could stick around after we're done, I've got an idea I want to share with you.
Okay.
And thank you to our sponsors, Blue Sky Video Productions and Cards That Wow. That's me. You can get this book right now, Major Violators. And I think I'll send this to you so you can sign it for me.
Absolutely.
And if you liked what you saw today, please share it out to your friends. And don't forget to subscribe. And we will see you next week. We're going back across the pond. We have Natalie Betts, who's a new aspiring author. And we're going to talk about her project. So we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye. Thank you.